Hello, sister. Hello, sister. Sister, shall we start? Sister, hello. Sister, not in line. Hello, sister. Sister, shall we start the program, sister?
Glory?
Shall we start, sister? Shall we start?
Only 50 participants have joined, no?
Many of them have already joined in YouTube link, sister.
Wait 2 more minutes.
Okay, thank you. Sister.
2 more minutes, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Many participants has already joined in YouTube link.
Okay, okay.
Since we announced to join a YouTube link through that WhatsApp group. Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Wait for 2 more minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
2 minutes taranga.
Glory? Glory, ma'am?
Yes, sister. Shall we start?
Yes, yes, you can start now.
Yes. Oh, okay, thank you, sister. Hello, Obliswamy sir. Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
Shall we start, sir?
Sure, sure.
We'll start with prayer song. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, can you stop sharing so that I can play the prayer song?
Dear participants, we start the program.
Karthik, sir. Thank you so much. Come forth into the light of things, let nature be your teacher. This was the famous quote of William Wordsworth. A warm and cordial welcome to one and all virtually connected here. It's my pleasure to welcome you all for this international workshop on microalgal technology organized by Marian Star Center, Department of Botany, St. Mary's College Autonomous Thoothukudi, sponsored by the Department of Biotechnology, New Delhi under the Star College scheme. We have all gathered here to drench ourselves with knowledge and engage ourselves in an active way in learning the microalgal technology, which is the need of the hour. If I call not thee in my prayers, if I keep not thee in my heart, thy love for me still waits for my love, says Rabindranath Tagore in his book Gitanjali. For the happy initiation of this workshop, let us invoke the blessings of the Lord through this prayer song.
God will make a way where there seems to be no way. He works in ways we cannot see. He will make a way for me. He will be my guide. Hold me closely to him with love and strength for each new day. He will make a way. He will make a way. Oh, God will make a way where there seems to be no way. He works in ways we cannot see. He will make a way for me. He will be my guide. Hold me closely to his side with love and strength for each new day. He will make a way. He will make a way.
Small cheers and great welcome makes a merry feast. I invite Dr. M. Glory, Head and Associate Professor of Botany, to welcome the gathering.
Dr. Obli Sami, Reverend Sister, Principal, Dr. Sister Lucia Rose, Reverend Sisters, Deans, HODs, colleagues and dear participants. Very good morning to one and all connected here. Department of Botany St. Mary's College is a research department working round the clock with the vision of developing academically, professionally, and ethically empowered women. Department is always committed to address the recent trends and advancements in science and innovation by executing various seminars, forums, and other scientific platforms like this. This is also another germ in the crown of Botany department. The workshop at this time is more relevant when the world is reeling under the crisis of clean energy and technology. To give a broad opening, we have today with us an eminent researcher, Dr. Obli Sami from USA. I'm extremely happy to welcome our resource person, Dr. Obli Sami. A great researcher consented our invitation to be the part of this workshop, conducted virtually. On behalf of our management, faculties of Department of Botany, I extend a warm welcome. This is the right time to inform you his academic caliber and expanded research expertise of our resource person, Dr. Obli Sami. Presently, he is working as a lecturer in the Department of Environmental Engineering and Technology, South Dakota School of Mines and Technology, USA. He has 12 years of international research experience in the field of environmental microbiology and biotechnology. He has contributed 70 research papers and review articles in the Scopus indexed journals. His workforce with a higher skill and broader span of knowledge allowed him to nurture and guide many scholars and students in the field of microbial engineering, omics technology, greenhouse gas fermentation into value products, etc. He became the recipient of various international awards due to his meritorious contribution and services, including Australia, Thailand, Early Career Research Exchange Award, Low Carbon Energy Environmental Writing Fellowship Awards, Ramalingaswamy Re-Entry Fellowship Award, etc. His enriched expertise prepared him to be the reviewer of various academic bodies and research journals. I mentioned a few. He was a review member and an assessor for the United States Department of Agriculture and also Agriculture and Agricultural Food Technological Institution in Canada. He also the member and reviewer of Australian Research Council Australia and the Research Foundation Flanders, Belgium, and he is also the associate editor for the Frontiers of Microbiological Technology and guest editor in a few special issues of Bioresource Technology and Environmental Technology journals. Certainly, it is our good day to have such an eminent researcher with us to give a broad opening to this resource full workshop. Once again, I extend my cordial welcome to you, sir. And this is my great honor to welcome our beloved principal, Dr. Sister Lucia Rose, whose stewardship led the institution to the higher altitude of what it is today. My warm welcome to you, sister. My cordial welcome are also due to our deputy principal, Dr. Sister Teres, our director of self-supportive courses, Dr. Sister Jairani. Welcome you all, reverend sisters. My hearty welcome to Dr. Sister Arokya Janishi Cellphones, overall coordinator and member secretary, DBT Star College scheme. My duty to welcome dear HODs, deans, controller of examination, faculties of Department of Botany, and all my dear colleagues. Welcome you all. It's my pleasure to welcome all the dear participants to this eventful workshop. Once again, I extend my warm welcome, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your warm words of welcome. It's my proud privilege to invite Reverend Sister Dr. Lucia Rose, principal of our college, to facilitate the workshop.
Renowned resource person, Dr. Obilisamy Parthiba Karthikeyan, research scientist and lecturer, Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, South Dakota, School of Mines and Technology, USA. Reverend Sister Flora Mary, our secretary. Reverend Dr. Sister Kulande Teres, deputy principal. Reverend Sister Josephine Jairani, director of self-supporting courses. Dr. Punita Dharani, controller of examinations. Dr. Sister Arukya Genesius Alphonse, overall coordinator and member secretary, DBT Star College program. Learned faculty members from our institution and from other institutions. Research scholars and my dear students. A very pleasant morning to one and all connected here. I'm very much delighted to welcome you all to this international workshop on microalgal technology, sponsored by Department of Biotechnology, New Delhi, and organized by Marian Star Center, Department of Botany, St. Mary's College, Autonomous Thoothukudi, under Star College scheme. First of all, I would like to congratulate the convener, Dr. Glory, head and associate professor of botany, and the organizing committee members for their strenuous efforts in organizing this international workshop. I wish and hope that this program will be beneficial to all the participants who have joined here with much enthusiasm. Algae are a diverse group of photosynthetic organisms capable of meeting key industrial and agricultural needs. The biological diversity of algae can be harnessed to produce a number of useful bioproducts either naturally or through genetic modification, which has yet to be fully utilized. Microalgae have recently gotten a lot of attention throughout the world due to its wide range of applications in the renewable energy, biopharmaceutical, and nutraceutical industries. As an environmentally friendly renewable feedstock, microalgae can be transformed into a range of products by employing conversion technologies such as algal lipid upgrading, liquefaction, pyrolysis, gasification, and bioethanol technology. The workshop's broad scope covers learning about microalgae culture, producing and extracting value-added products from microalgae, and using microalgae for environmental sustainability. Department of Botany is always excellent in arranging scientific forums to discuss and deliberate the current scientific advancement and issues. This well-conceived workshop on microalgal technology is a testimony for the same. Department of Botany deserves my warmest congratulations. Hope this workshop would make great impact to the participants and have a lot of take-home information for your future learning and research pursuits. At this juncture, I would like to express my sincere thanks to all the resource persons for accepting our invitation and to deliver talks on various topics amidst their busy schedule. Once again, I appreciate and applaud the organizers for their sincere efforts in organizing this international workshop. I wish all the participants to make the best use of this unique opportunity. I wish this international workshop a great success.
Thank you, dear sister, for your warm blessings. Thank you, sister. Dear participants, kindly switch on your cameras and join us in the group photo session, please. Dear participants, kindly switch on your cameras. Thank you, dear participants. The most awaited moment of knowledge sharing has come. Let us brace ourselves to engage in this session. Sir, the session is yours.
Yeah, good morning to everyone. Can you see my slides and am I audible
Yes,
to
sir.
everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, audible.
Yes, sir. You are audible.
So, yeah, good morning, everyone. So I take this opportunity to thank the organizer, mainly the convener, Dr. Glory, for having me on this special seminar or workshop. And also I would like to thank Madam Flora Mary, Secretary of St. Mary's College, and Dr. A.S.J. Luzieros, the Principal of St. Mary's College, and Program Coordinator, Arokia Jesus Alfonso, and also organizing team members. There are a list of members that I would like to thank all of them. and also the support which is given by Department of Biotechnology to organizing this workshop, and also Dr. James, who is my senior, and also thank him on this occasion. So before getting into my presentation, so today it's just I'm going to give you a research idea that we are working on, but also I feel it should be like a formal, informal discussion. So I expect some questions, so you can interrupt me at any point, so I can stop and then I can clarify before I move on to the next slide. So I do have 35 slides, so I hope I can cover most of the important aspects of the algal technology. I hope you will all gonna take some interesting ideas or message for your future research or for your studies, whatever it's gonna be. And today's my topic is about microalgae, biofactory for value products. So before getting into the detailed presentation, I would like to show some of the images which is on my slides. You can see on the right corner. So these are all some of the pictures, cool pictures of the microalgae from different researchers. So you can find these images from this web link. So I just wanted to share this because there are lots and lots of microalgae which exist in nature, so that we are not really understood well. So I hope this presentation will give you some bits and pieces of information, but those who are interested, I'm sure you can explore a lot more with this unknown group of living organisms on Earth. So when you look into the algae and cyanobacteria is a prokaryote which is having a long history of life. So if you look into the history, the prokaryotes, or mainly the cyanobacteria, is having the old record of, or I would say like the DNA fingerprints from 3.5 billion years ago. If somebody wanted to understand how the evolution happened and how these tiny little photosynthetic prokaryotes surviving for 3.5 billion years is interesting. So you can't imagine. So the algae came from the prokaryotes. The algae are mostly eukaryote, but no matter what, both prokaryotic and eukaryotic algae are photosynthetic, which means they grow using the lights and CO2 as their carbon and energy sources, and they multiply and give you a lot of value products that you can't imagine. So my presentation would cover all these points. So first I will introduce why we need to understand this topic, or why this is important, and how we can make use of these algae as a biofactory to produce multiple products. And yeah, there is some noise. Okay.
Sorry, sir, I'm muting it.
Yeah. And also there are some possible areas where we can use this algal technology, and we're going to also understand what is the bottleneck and why it is not it is commercialized, but it is not that commercialized as other technologies. And also we try to understand, or I can give you what we are doing at United States, and what kind of research we are doing using algae, and what kind of the technology that we are applying, and what kind of value products that we are harvesting from this algae, with concluding remarks. So why this topic is important at this point of time is because we know that the population is increasing every year or every day by day. So we know that the population as of today is close to 8 billion, and it is projected that by 2050 it's going to be close to 10 billion, and by 2000 it's going to be like 15.6 billion. But there is also the negative prediction, which is that by 2100 the population might go inward, which means it's going to decrease after 2050, and it's going to be like 7.3 billion by end of 2100. So no matter what, we know that the population is going to increase, and there may be decline or there may be increasing even after 2050, but we don't know. But we have to prepare for meeting the demand, especially food and fuel and water. So the global food production is expected to increase 60 to 70%, because, as I said before, it's going to be need to serve for 9.8 billion people by 2050. And also the world energy demand is going to increase 50% from today, and also the water demand. But when you look into the connections between these three sectors, there we call it as water, food, energy nexus. So when there is an energy demand, is because of increasing urbanization. So definitely they will have a positive or negative impact on food production. And also at the same time, clean water demand. So these all three are interlinked no matter what. So we have to make sure that we are providing a clean water, uninterrupted energy, and also uninterrupted food supply chain. So this is going to be tricky because we are running out of land, agricultural land, because of urbanization. And also we are running out of the freshwater resources because most of the waterways are polluted, or because of the drought or changing environmental conditions, we are running out of fresh water. And also the energy, we know that there is fossil fuel, which is non-renewable resources, which is depleting. So by 2050, we will not be having any fossil fuel if we are using the fossil fuel as at this current rate that we are using for energy production. So definitely we are in stress. The world is going to be in stress. So the only way is to make use of the resources effectively, and that required smart planning. So when you talk about the energy supply, so we know that as of today, 80% of the energy supply coming from the fossil resources, which is contributing to a lot of greenhouse gas emissions every year, and contributing to the global warming and climate change. So when we think about the future, we have to produce more from less resources, and we also have to make sure that we are protecting our environment and maintaining the ecological balance. Once if the ecological balance are disturbed, so we can't be able to achieve whatever we want. So for that, we have to definitely optimize the economic and environmental and social aspects. That's called 3 pillars of the sustainable development. So this is what the world is moving towards. So it's called integrated sustainable economy or bioeconomy, where they wanted to make use of the resources and available land area and everything in a productive manner, but at the same time with less pollution emissions. So in an integrated sustainable economy development, so we are looking for clean water and agriculture and industrial activity, net zero emission or no greenhouse gas emissions, which means we wanted to move towards clean energy. For example, I'm sure you have all heard about the clean energy, like hydrogen fuel cells or electrochemical cells. So this is all going to happen in next 20, 30 years. And also we wanted to get a food, clean and uncontaminated food, which means like there are a lot of pesticides and pollutants and heavy metals everywhere in the soil, in the water and everywhere. So we wanted to get rid of anything which is contaminated, and we don't want to, that might affect our health. So we have to make sure that any food supply chain in the future is not having any contaminants. So that could be possible, and slowly the European countries and even US recently announced that we wanted to go towards circular bioeconomy concept, which is different from linear economy. That's what happening right now or previous decades. So which means the linear economy is nothing but exploit the resources and produce some value products and dispose them, which means these are not recycled or reused. just they go to the waste yards or landfills. And also that we know that any linear economy is bound with a lot of emissions, not only the gaseous emissions, also a lot of water pollutants and everything. So as of 2012, European bioeconomy started this circular bioeconomy concept. Even the US announced the bioeconomy blueprint in 2012, Biden's government recently, last week, they said that we are going to more impose these circular bioeconomy concepts in all the sectors. So which is nothing but, okay, you can use the resources wisely. So which means you extract the resource, use the resource, and recycle the resource as much as possible, as many times as possible. So that's called circular bioeconomy. So the world is going to moving towards the green economy and green energy systems. So through which we hope that we can able to meet the adequate energy supply and water supply and food supply, whatever we think of. So the circular bioeconomy focuses on resource efficient valorization. So mainly it is related to the biomass, which means any biomass which is renewable. And that could be used through biorefineries and then recycled many times. So we wanted to link the algae for developing biocircular economy concept. So definitely we think that the algae is one fit for all. What do I mean one fit for all is that definitely algae could be used as an energy source, because we know that algae produce a lot of lipids or accumulate a lot of lipids. So we can use these lipids for energy as energy source to produce energy or biodiesel or whatever you think of. So we know that algae can grow on any conditions, like a saline water, industrial wastewater, municipal wastewater. So you think of any kind of water, the algae can grow. So which means we can use this algae to treat pollutants from the contaminated sources or wastewater to recover any pollutants or recover metals or recover nitrogen or phosphorus, whatever you think of. So the resource recovery is that nothing but recycling of nutrients from waste sources. And then it also produces a lot of value products other than lipids. For example, polymers. We can use this algae as fertilizers. There is a lot of beta carotenes, astaxanthins. So whatever pigments if you think of, it is possible to produce using the algae. And algae, we know that a lot of algae is used as food, like spirulina is one example, and that's normally used. And some of the algae are also used as animal feed to substitute some of the plant-based materials. So when you think of this algae, as shown in this image, so you can develop an algal biorefinery, which means you can grow the algae in wherever you want on whatever the conditions you want. And you can produce energy, you can produce value products, you can produce food, and you can produce fuel. So that's why we say like one fit for all, and definitely this microalgae is going to help support the circular bioeconomy concept that the world is moving towards. So yes, algae is good. We know that. And what is the current market, which is really very low? Like if you look into the algal market as of 2014, it's just 114.8 million USD. But it is projected that it's going to be like 3,450 million USD. So it's like within 10 years you can see the growth of algal market is because of the value, the medicinal value, and also it's having a lot of applications in industry and agriculture sectors. So it is mainly, as of today, the brown algae, blue-green algae are most commonly used. So the demand is more for this brown algae or blue-green algae. But in the future, there will be more. As I said before, I'm going to give you some statistics. So you can understand why I say that the future is going to be on the microalgae. So typically the microalgae, when you look into the composition, so we can just, these are the broader category, but there are, I don't want to go into individual items or the names, which is going to take a lot of time. But so if you look into the broader category, the microalgae produce a lot of carbohydrates. So this 5 to 30% is for different species or different strains that you're going to use. And also for protein, maybe 5 to 30% max. And the lipids maximum is 50%. And there will be a lot of carotenoids, fibers, and some other inorganic nutrients. So this is the typical composition of microalgae. And here you can see the example of Nanochloropsis, which is grown under different conditions.
Sir?
And hello. Hello.
Sir? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, sorry for the interruption.
Okay.
So we can use these carbohydrates for production of organic acids or production of bioenergy or production of chemicals or feed. So this carbohydrates is kind of complex sugars or mixed sugars that can be used in various industries to produce these value chemicals. So by fractionation, you can also separate proteins and lipids. The proteins can be used as a feed, nutrient supplements. There are some proteins which is having a nutraceutical, pharmaceutical values. So you can separate them by different separation processes. When also the lipids, you know that the lipids can be used for biodiesel production, fuel production, or polymer production. So if you fractionate the algae and if you have the technology, so you can feed these different fractions into different industrial applications, so that the biorefinery concepts can be developed using algal biofactory. So this gives you an idea like how many species of algae exist. So if you look into the numbers, more than 300,000 of species of algae exist, but we just only know 30,000, or just we listed only 30,000 algae. So this interest of using algae for different applications started in 1950s. It's not too late, but since 1950, there were a lot of achievements and applications were made. So thanks to all the researchers who contributed effectively on this topic. But if you look into the commercialization point of view, so only 15 microalgal species are commercially exploited, which means only the 15 out of 30,000 algal species that we know were used for commercial production of value products. So there are a lot which we don't know about it. So one take-home message here is that any algal species is a good CO2 utilizer, which means it converts CO2 into biomass. So their capacity is in the range of 1.4 to 1.7 gram per liter per day. So we can use just CO2 to produce this biomass. So we know that by photosynthetic process, we could get biomass just using CO2. So we no need of supplying any carbon. So this is why the algae research is gaining momentum recently. So there are a lot of researchers working on converting the CO2 to sugars, CO2 to biopolymers, CO2 to proteins, or whatever you think of. But still a lot more has to be done. And but looking into the distribution of algal research companies, there are 2,000 companies across the globe. They are looking into different value chemicals and bioproducts extraction from the algae. And if you look into the research funding in terms of our research focus, So the United States and China are leading the effort. So they are doing a lot of research on or commercializing these algal technologies compared to other countries. So these are some of the algae that were isolated from different sources. So I just going to give you an idea of application of algae in different industries or producing the value products from algae. So this one is about the nanochlorobsis. The nanochlorobsis is used as a common food and feed industry because it's having a 40% of protein, and it also contains EPA omega-3 essentials. So that's the reason why a lot of people interested to use nanochlorobsis to produce these proteins and essential fatty acids. So the interesting thing is the marine algae. So it's not required any fresh water, and also it won't. But one thing is that it takes a lot of land area, or if you're growing on land, it's required a lot of land area compared to other protein supplements. But when you think of from the freshwater point of view, there is no freshwater demand. So if there is an advantage, there is a disadvantage as well. But that's one of the bottleneck that I'm going to explain later in later slides. And also, like we know that the spirulina is one of the commonly used food, which is currently having a $30 per kg price. But also there are a lot of other algal species are being tested for using it as feed and food. So maybe our future plate look like this. So this is coming from the algae, veg burger with algae protein, and then salad, which is with algae oil, and this pasta maybe from algal protein or alternate proteins. So maybe the future of our plate or the breakfast or dinner or lunch looks like mostly coming from algae or seaweeds. So these are some of the bites, mini bites. So spirulina, the current production is greater than 12,000 tons per year. Chlorella and Junella salina. So these are the production rate across the globe. So coming to the microalgal pigments, so phycocyanin is one of the common pigment that we know and also having a high commercial value. But there are also other components like beta carotene, astaxanthin, fucocyanin, and phycocyanin, phycoerythrin, lutein. So these are all having a different applications. So the industry is growing very fast. So it is expected that by 2025, it's going to be like 4% increase from 2019. So the market value is 452.4 million. And so producing these compounds are going to be expensive and tricky, not only with the accumulation, but it's also the extraction that's going to be tricky and going to be expensive, but it's having a high market value. So these are all normally used as functional foods and also used in cosmetics and pharmaceuticals. That's why it's really important. And also when you look into the other bioactive compounds, so for example, chlorella, spirulina, and Junella salina, we compared and their health properties. For example, this is protein and peptides having a nutritional value, and polysaccharide glucan having a immunostimular activity. So there are different proteins or bioactive compounds in chlorella having a different health benefits. And same goes with the spirulina. So it's got mostly antioxidant property that we get it from cherry or berry fruits. So definitely these three species are commercially grown and extracted for these compounds, and which is having a high health benefits. But in future there may be more algal species, and their bioactive compounds will be identified and will be used in the health system. So if anyone is interested, so maybe this paper gives you an idea, like all the information that I'm talking about. So the microalgae high value products in nutraceutical and pharmaceutical applications. So yeah, this work was done by Sanjit. And next, moving on to the microalgae for fuel production. Yes, we know that microalgae got a lot of lipids, so definitely we can use it for fuel production. So if you look into 2006 data, most of the fuel is coming from 96.3% coming from the conventional oil fields or the fossil fuels. But as of 2030, it is estimated that 6% is going to be biofuel. Most of them is going to be the algal biofuels. So which is going to be like 106.6 million barrels per day is expected to produce. So but the bottleneck or challenge is that strain selection, because we know that the lipid production is maximum 50%, but not all the algae is going to produce 50%. Or I would say, if you wanted to produce 50% as maximum, you have to manipulate the conditions, which is favorable for lipid accumulation. So for different algae, there is a different stress conditions that we have to simulate, and then we have to harvest at the right time to make use of this lipid for biofuel extraction. Then only it's going to be cost effective. So there are a lot of bio or genetic engineering approaches are used to improve the lipid production and quality of the lipids accumulation. So, but we know that genetically modified strains, if they wanted to use in the field, there is a lot of policies and regulations that they need to meet before they commercialize the technology. So that's another bottleneck for this industry to move it further. So another area of application with the microalgae is the wastewater treatment. As I said before, it can be used, number of algae can be used or tested for wastewater treatment. And mainly in Australia, Europe, Thailand, Taiwan, everyone is exploiting the microalgae for wastewater treatment as a tertiary treatment process, because before chlorination, because there are a lot of nitrate or nutrients are going to discharge into the freshwater system, and it causes eutrophication. So they wanted to reduce that. So they go for algal technology as a tertiary treatment process. And also, we know that the microalgae use or sequester heavy metals. So that's another area where a lot of industrial wastewaters, which is having high metal concentrations, are using this algae to recover metals. So I'm sure you all know that the microalgae required the light, and there are different kinds of systems are developed. But the conventional system is called raised bay pond. It's just simple tank where the algae is grown with kind of a pedaling system that move the water or circulate the air so that the light and also the oxygen and CO2 will be supplied to the microalgae to grow. But these are all some of the photobioreactors, like horizontal, vertical, flat panel. So there are a lot of research has happened, but this graph or the image that gives you an idea of how much of OPEX and CAPEX cost is required when you wanted to go for different kinds of reactor designs, and if you wanted to produce some value chemicals. So for example, this one is biofuel. If you wanted to go for biofuels, so most of the cost goes for wastewater. In case if you're using a wastewater, so the wastewater cost, as well as the labor cost and the utility cost and energy cost. Oh, sorry, this is energy cost, and this one is the labor cost, and this one is the utility cost. So this makes up to 70% of the total production, assuming that you're treating the wastewater because it's less expensive or there is no value for it. Same goes for in case if you wanted to produce food and feed. So the most of the cost goes for the consumables, because we have to make sure that whatever the quality that we produce is good enough to get the accreditation from the food and food agencies. So there should not be any issue. So definitely the consumable cost is going to be more, because here they will not use wastewater. They have to use a lot of chemicals to grow the algae. Same goes for cosmetics and or any other protein productions. So these are all critical processes. So based on the product that you wanted to develop and based on the type of the reactor that you're going to use, the OPEX and CAPEX is going to be changing for different types of algae. But it is roughly like $4 per kg production cost is for chlorella. But as I said before, if you are using some algae which is having high protein content and it requires some special aeration systems, then it's going to be different. And one of the one of the major bottleneck in the algal industry is the harvesting cost, because we know that the algae need to be filtered or settled down to separate the water and then get the biomass to process and separate the feed proteins or lipids. So the separation of water from algal system is going to be energy consuming process that takes a lot of operating cost. So coming to our research area that we are working on, so there are multiple areas that we are looking into or using the algae. So one area is to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from landfills or mining activity. So we know that the landfills and mining activity produce a lot of methane, not the carbon dioxide. But we know that the bacteria, algae or the cyanobacteria use CO2. So what we do is we treat the methane using the methane oxidizing bacteria that converts the methane into CO2. And we produce some value products here, but at the same time, we wanted to use this CO2 and produce another value product. So we feed this CO2 into the biofilm system or the cyanobacteria microalgal system that convert the CO2 into value products. So the objective of this project, mainly looking at the biopolymer production. So both the systems we optimized and fine-tuned for biopolymer production from the greenhouse gas. So another area that we are looking into is that, as I said before, the tertiary treatment system. So we know that the conventional wastewater treatment plant, the wastewater flows through the primary clarifiers, and then the activated sludge process then goes to the secondary clarifier, and it goes to the discharge into the freshwater resources or any other sources. But here we wanted United States promoting the tertiary algal treatment process. So they wanted to have algal system to recover nitrogen and phosphorus before going for the chlorination and final discharge. So here we grow the algae for recovering the nutrients and use this algae for producing number of value products. So one is here is to produce lipid and protein, and also the waste biomass that goes for anaerobic fermentation, where we produce energy or succinic acid. So the succinic acid market is very huge in United States. So this was one of the projects that we worked on. So another area of research is genetic engineering of algae to produce, again, biopolymer. But here we wanted to use different types of reactors to see how efficient the reactor to produce biopolymer in the system. So here we use Synecocystis is another industrially interesting strain that are commercialized. So we wanted to, and also the genetic system is available so that easy to manipulate or genetically engineer for improving the productivity of whatever you want. So the another project that we also working on is the producing the organic acids. So here we convert the CO2 into sugars in the first phase, and then use the sugars to produce some value compounds using the electrochemical system. So this is again another work that we also look into. And as I said before, if you remember, growing the algae is in a freshwater is challenging. So here we wanted to use algae for desalination. So as of today, we know the desalination process is expensive. They use reverse osmosis process. And so here we wanted to propose the algae to desalinate, but at the same time use this desalination process to convert the algal biomass into value products. So this one is another project that we worked on. So we use the biomass to produce bioenergy or methane and organic acids. So we grow the cells and harvest the cells and then treat the cells and produce energy and compare between the different operation conditions. So I'm going to give you two examples. With that, I'm going to end my presentation. So this one is recently published. So as I said before, we wanted to see whether the microalgal bioenergy system is feasible. So we grow the biomass and we optimize the conditions and see how much of biogas could be recovered for bioenergy production and how much of organic acid could be produced from the algae. So the major objective here is to pre-treatment efficiency, which means that the algae, the Tolipothrix, which is one of the biofilm forming community, which means they look like a thread and their cell wall is more rigid. And we grow this Tolipothrix on the industrial wastewater, which is having high metal concentration. So once it's having high metal concentration, it cannot be used as animal feed or it cannot be used for any other purpose. So only option is to produce some biodiesel or bioenergy. But since it's having a high cell wall or thick cell wall, we have to break the cell wall. So for that, we have to use a different pre-treatment conditions. So we tested different pre-treatment conditions and we try to understand which pre-treatment condition is effective in terms of energy and economic point of view. So we compared and contrast different treatment and we tested different parameters, and I just going to show you the results. Yeah, it's kind of fully packed table, but just take home message is that if you wanted to compare the methane production potential and methane per gram of VS removed. So if you look into this data, so the thermal or hydrothermal treatment seems to be better, or sonication seems to be better than any other treatment processes. So the thermal process means like just heating the biomass at high temperature for 10 or 15 minutes. So this helped to break the cell wall, rigid cell wall, and produce a lot of more of carbohydrates that can be digested to produce more methane. But at the same time, we got a lot of volatile fatty acids from the thermal process. But if you look into the VFA, which is more, so if you wanted to produce more methane, you have to go for thermal treatment. If you wanted to produce more of organic acids, you can go for sonication. So that's the conclusion that we made out of this experiment. So moving forward to the next study. So this is more relevant to what I was explaining before. So we try to understand the value production using the picochloram strain under different growth conditions. So this is why we choose the picochloram is that it's thermotolerant, it's saline tolerant, you can grow in marine system, and it's having a good biomass productivity and high lipid contents and a good carotenoid content as well. So we tested 3 different nutrient composition, media composition, and also we tested under 3 different growth condition, which means like only light and CO2 as a carbon source. In another experiment, we just use 1% glucose as a carbon source. And in another experiment, there is no light because adding light is going to be more energy intensive, and that's going to add more cost to the capex or OPEX. So we wanted to see whether this algae can be grown without any lights. And then we tested different carbon sources. We know that the glucose is a simplest carbon source, but there are some industrial waste which have a lot of glycerol or methanol. So we wanted to see whether these waste glycerol or waste methanol could be used as a carbon source. And also we use sodium acetate, which is again another carbon source, which is commonly coming from the anaerobic digesters, and different concentrations. So we tested all these conditions and we compared the biomass productivity, lipids and pigments, and beta carotene and carotenoids. So if you look into the 3 different media that we have tested, so definitely the artificial seawater simulation is having a better growth. And BG11, again, BG11 is a standard medium that is used for growing the algae, which is equally having a better growth conditions. So when you grow on the different conditions, mixotrophic, phototrophic, or heterotrophic, heterotrophic is just without light, but this is with light. So with light and with supplement of sugar like glucose, the productivity is doubled. So definitely the mixotrophic growth condition or photoheterotrophic growth condition is good for this particular algae. So again, this is only for the Picochlora. So if you are choosing a different strain, then you have to optimize the conditions for your strain or species. So when you compare the lipid productivity or the biomass productivity, so the glucose having high biomass productivity, but when you look into the acetate, which is having 68.33 milligram per liter per day, so definitely glucose or acetate seems to be good, but whereas the glycerol or methanol is not really that good for biomass production. And also you can just compare the total carotenoids, astaxanthin and everything. So if you're producing more biomass, definitely these value products are going to be more. So we also tested the sodium acetate because we know that sodium acetate or glucose is good. So we tested sodium acetate at different concentrations. And when you look into the biomass productivity, so the biomass productivity 7.5 gram sodium acetate is good. So we recommended that 7.5 gram of sodium acetate is good for growing this Picochlora. That helps to produce more lipid. But in terms of astaxanthin, other beta carotene is good at 2.5. So there is the effect when there is a more carbon source, lipid production is more, but we have to compromise other value products. But if you're looking for beta carotene, then you have to compromise the lipid production. So one or the other way, the metabolic process is switching between the lipid production to the value product addition. So we have to fine tune the system to get maximum benefit out of it. So coming to the final slide, which is talking about the bottleneck. So we know that there are different kinds of cultivation system, but as I did mention before, the production and harvesting cost is very, very high. This is one of the major bottleneck for this industry to further scale up or commercialize in a rate which we expect. And also there are a lot of unknown strains which is not commercially exploited or tested, and therefore there is a lot of research is required if you wanted to understand more about algal technology. And also if you look into the knowledge, the manpower on this particular area or industry is very low or less, so which needs to be improved so that the industry could be grown. And also the supply chain and demand is low, which means, so there is a demand, but the supply chain is not exist or it is very rare. So that's another bottleneck. And the economic and market analysis is not complete, which means even though I say some numbers like $4 per kg, that may be like 2010 data, but it's not recent data. So not many economic or market analysis data is available on different products and different algae for different algae. So that's another bottleneck. So even if I wanted to start an algal industry, I will afraid because when I look for the data, there will not be any data, or there will be some old data which is available. So that makes me not to get into the algal industry. So with this, I would like to thank all the funding agencies and my institutions and my supervisors and the students and colleagues who worked with me are part of these projects, and all other employers. And finally, my special thanks to all the workshop organizers and the team. So I'm open for any questions.
Thank you so much, sir. That was an informative session. Dear participants, if you have any queries, you can unmute your mic and ask, or you can put up in the chat box.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir. Am I audible?
You're audible.
Sir, you say that VZ11 is a good as a algal media. Can we use Chuten media also?
Yeah, you can use any media, but you have to remember that when you change the nutrient composition or any media composition, that's going to influence your value product accumulation. So for example, in a BG11, if you use nitrate, but in artificial seawater, there will be a sodium chloride along with nitrate. So the sodium chloride is going to affect the metabolites that are going to accumulate in a picochlorem or any other strain, which is salt tolerance. So when we talk about the salt tolerance bacteria or algae, they have a unique property. So they have to maintain their cellular osmolality. So they export a lot of cations or from the cell to the external environment, or it takes a lot of cations from the external environment into the cells. So that's changed the whole metabolic functions of any strain. So when you choose the media, you have to be careful. And if you think that that's the media that you wanted to fine tweak to accumulate more beta carotene, then you can go for it. But if you wanted to look for some other compounds, if you think that that media is going to affect the accumulation of that particular compound, then I will not go for it. So again, it's matter of the strain that you're going to use, and also it's the matter of what you wanted to harvest from your algae at the end of the day.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, sorry, what? I didn't get your name.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry?
Thank you, sir, for explaining.
What's your name?
Ushakar Mishra.
Okay. Nice talking to you.
Thank you, sir.
The participants, you can put up the question in the chat box as well if you have any queries. Thank you, sir. We don't have any questions, like there is no queries put up here. Thank you so much, sir, for your informative session.
And
Silent gratitude isn't much use to anyone, says G.B. Stern. I now invite Dr. G. Flora, Assistant Professor of Botany, to propose the vote of thanks. Dr. Obliswamy, Parthiva Karthikeyan, Resource Person of the Day, Reverend Sister Flora Mary, our Secretary, Reverend Dr. Sister Lucia Rose, our Principal, Dr. Glory, my dear colleagues and dear participants. Warm greetings and good morning, one and all connected here. At this juncture, I deem it a great privilege to propose the vote of thanks on behalf of the Department of Botany. First of all, our sincere thanks to Almighty God for His guiding presence for the whole event. By His blessings and grace, we were able to make the event a meaningful and fruitful attainment. We were indeed fortunate to hear the resourceful talk of Dr. Obliswamy Parthiva Karthikeyan, research scientist and lecturer, Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, South Dakota School of Mines and Technology, USA, on microalgae, a biofactory for value products. His wide experiential knowledge on microalgae was enriching and highly beneficial. Surely it showed signs of positive outcome from participants. Thank you, sir, for a wonderful and resourceful talk. We would like to express our sincere gratitude to our principal, Reverend Dr. Sister Lucia Rose, for being the catalyst that inspires us to do our best and stand as a pillar of motivation. Our sincere thanks are due to our Secretary, Reverend Sister Flora Mary, for the rich promotion of academic ambience in our institution. We would like to acknowledge with gratitude Reverend Dr. Sister Kulande Taras, Deputy Principal, for our prominent leadership and administering support and encouragement in our endeavors. I take this opportunity to express our sincere thanks to our head of the department, Dr. M. Glory, the dynamic and flexible person in all academic matters, for gracing this occasion.
We owe a special gratitude to Dr. Sister R.K. Genesius Alphonse, the overall coordinator of the Star College scheme. Her active involvement and planning has made the program largely a beneficial one. Participants had enriching sessions and had gained expert knowledge on microalgae. We thank wholeheartedly the entire team of hardworking, tireless brains and voluntary hearts for making this program a resounding success. We are really fortunate to be supported by an ardent team of very active and dedicated staff members from the Department of Botany. I sincerely thank Department of Science and Technology, New Delhi, India, for providing financial support through Star College scheme to organize this conference workshop. Our sincere thanks to all those who worked behind the scene to execute this event, most especially our technical arrangement team. Last but not least, with all sincerity, I thank all the participants for their active and enthusiastic participation. Thank you all once again and wish you to stay safe and keep safe. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Dear participants, the feedback link is posted on the chat box. Kindly fill this one. The virtual training session will be held in the afternoon through the Google Classroom. A video will be posted. We shall meet tomorrow at 9 a.m. for the second day of the workshop. Thank you. Karthik sir?
Yeah, thanks, ma'am.
Thank you so
Thanks
much,
for.
sir. Thank you so much, sir.
I'll talk to you later, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Can you please share this Google Classroom code in WhatsApp?
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. I'll be sending it one more time.
And the timings for the session.
Sure, sir. I will.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Dear participants, kindly fill the feedback form. Once you have filled, you can leave the meeting. We can meet tomorrow. Thank you.